Brace the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started today at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. Checking off the boxes on your to-do list is a great feeling. And when it comes to checking off coverage, a State Farm agent can help you choose an option that's right for you. Whether you prefer talking in person, on the phone, or using the award-winning app, it's nice knowing you have help finding coverage that best fits your needs. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
Love espresso, drip coffee, and cold brew? With the Ninja Luxe Cafe, if you can crave it, you can brew it. Espresso, balanced. Drip coffee, rich. Cold brew in a flash. With Barista Assist technology, you brew with no stress and no guesswork and make perfect silky microfoam hands-free from dairy or plant-based milks. Shop the Ninja Luxe Cafe at ninjakitchen.com.
You set the table, put on a playlist, even made the lasagna from scratch. And now you're wearing it. OxyClean Max Force Spray tackles tough, set-in stains the first time. Adulting is hard. Fighting stains shouldn't be. OxyClean Max Force. It's not clean unless it's OxyClean.
Hello and welcome to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. We are so excited to bring you this show.
Our podcast is all about unraveling all of your favorite mysteries from the Assassin's Creed games. Each episode will be talking about a different topic in the Assassin's Creed universe. From Pieces of Eden, solar flares, and the Isu, to the Hidden Ones, the Order of Ancients, and of course, the Animus. We will seek to uncover it all.
So join us and maybe even take a leap of faith.
You also know me as She-Cup, and we're back with another Assassins vs. Templars episode.
Yeah, I am your other host, Austin or Teacup, and we've been in Europe for a while, and so we are moving back to the Far East, to the country of China today.
Yeah, so I know that pretty much every time we've been in Asia over the past 6 months, it's been in Japan. So this will be a little bit of a change. So I'm just going to turn the floor right over to you.
Absolutely. And today we are talking about Chairman Mao Zedong, who, if you are unfamiliar with, is very, very big in the mid-20th century or the 1900s, for those of you who want to make me feel old and say I was born in the 1900s, because I was. But anyway, yes, so Chairman Mao Zedong is the chairman of the Chinese Communist Party, political theorist, and founder of the People's Republic of China, or the PRC. Now, the People's Republic of China is the official name to this day of the country of China. So his founding of this is the system of government and establishment that was established that continues into China today. So I'm sure you all, if you are at all familiar with, U.S. history or anything, sometimes Chairman Mao is kind of referred to as a boogeyman. Would you say, Shelby? Would you agree with that?
I mean, I definitely agree. yes, he is kind of used as like the evil, like modern day communist, as well as his party, the Chinese Communist Party. Both of them are kind of used interchangeably.
Yeah, so if you've been following the TikTok ban that happened at the beginning of this year and all of that, there was a lot of stuff about the Chinese Communist Party. This is the same party that Mao Zedong, Chairman Mao, founded and brought forth in revolution. So he lived from 1893 to 1976. Now, I just want to talk about the things that he lived through in the world. So first of all, he is born as the Industrial Revolution is kind of expanding outside of Europe. And imperialism across the board is both on a rise and decline. Like, the United States is kind of emerging from our isolationism, and we'll have our full emergence once World War I happens. And, colonies are the imperialism across the world is starting to be really, really strong. And China has a strong connection with the British Empire. And not to mention, China also has a strong history of imperialism themselves. And their empire is one of the greatest and longest lasting in all of East Asia. Then he lives both world wars, the Great Depression, all of that, the Korean War, the Vietnam War. Now, he's really chairman mostly through the Korean War. And then, he is alive and well, and he dies shortly after Nixon reopens trade for the country of China, just a couple years after that. And so he really lives through what is probably one of the most fundamental and times of change in the modern history. And so he led the People's Republic from its founding in 1943. So the People's Republic is founded near the end of World War II to 1959. But he remains chairman of the Communist Party until his death. So he steps down as president or leader of the country in 1959, but he doesn't die until 1976, and he remains chairman of the Communist Party in there. Now, I'm not super familiar with how their government is structured, so I don't know what kind of political power that leads him to. I mean, there are chairs of like the Democratic National Convention and the Republican Party, the GOP. They have chairs who head their parties, but they have influence, but their political influence isn't they're not directly making laws or doing things like that.
Right. In the US, the chairs of the parties are not necessarily the leader of the party. They're not necessarily, they do lead the party, but they're not the public leader of the party is probably a better way to phrase it. Donald Trump as the president, as the Republican president, is not the leader of the Republican Party.
Correct.
He is the leader, but he's not the administrator of the party. And that's the difference. It's kind of hard to articulate. I have no idea if it's the same or different in China.
Yeah, I have no idea either. So one of the important things that I think is really, he does so much, and it's really hard to we don't have time to cover every single policy and every single thing that he does, just because he is so fundamental to this time period in China and really sets the groundwork for who China is today and how they're run today. But he advocates for this philosophy that's called vanguardism. Now, this is a Leninism, and when I say that, that's Vladimir Lenin, who is one of the founders and primary things in Russian communism and leads to, the Russian Revolution and the Bolshevik Revolution and the founding of the Soviet Union, really, when we get into it. Lenin founds the Soviet Union, and then Stalin really makes it into what it is. And so this idea from Lenin focuses that it is the responsibility of the revolutionary party to dismantle capitalism, progress to socialism, and then eventually enact communism. So this revolutionary party serves as, the idea is that they serve as this vanguard, this people that go in first, and that's an important thing. Like the vanguard go in first, go in before that to set the stage for communism to come forward and progress. And so Chairman Mao very much sees himself and his party, when they get up, as this vanguard to root out capitalism and establish socialism that will eventually lead to communism.
And I do think that makes sense because he kind of, when he first starts his political career, he's not anywhere near as dictatorial as he is by the end of it.
Correct.
And I mean, that happens with a lot of political leaders, but to go from someone that's almost autocratic, almost democratic even, to a totalitarian dictator is a pretty wide change.
Right. It's also worth noting, I don't have this in my show notes, but I just remembered it. He does not come from like the aristocracy. He does not come from like these families that are surrounding the emperor of China and the old imperialism and the capitalism kind of stuff. He doesn't come from the upper class. He is a peasant.
Yeah, he's poor.
He's poor and a farmer. And I think this really is important for him because he comes from the poorest of working class. Like his family were farmers.
And that makes sense why he focuses his politics on the peasant class, instead of kind of like the urban workers and everything.
Yeah, very much so. Mao also had a firm belief that mass movements and mass criticisms were a necessary check to the bureaucracy, which, you know, we start this and it sounds great. Like it sounds like, yeah, let's give more power to the working class. However, things are not always as nice as they seem.
But isn't that always how dictatorships and just authoritarian regimes always start of any kind, whether they're communist, socialist, democratic, whatever they are? I feel like that's always how they start, of like, oh, this would be a great change for us. This sounds great. And then it devolves into something that's fundamentally different from how it started.
Yes, very much so. And, you know, we always talk in history sometimes that fascism and communism are like when they get into dictatorships, they're two sides of the same coin. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of similarities in the dictators across the board in that. But it's important to note that a lot of these dictators are super charismatic. Like sometimes we like to picture them as these like evil, conniving kind of people that like work behind the scenes and, you know, are always showing themselves for exactly who they are. But like all of these dictators in this time, Stalin, Hitler, Mao, like Castro, like they are charming. Mm-hmm. They are charismatic. They make you want to believe in what they're believing because they are so talented at public speaking. They are so talented at inspiration. And it's a really testament to how these gifts, when used for nefarious purposes, are detrimental to humanity.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's get into it. And I do want to preface this with a little bit of a trigger warning for systematic government oppression, mass executions, and a bunch of other kind of stuff that, so if that is a kind of trigger for you, you might not want to listen to the rest of this episode or skip to the end to see what we have to say about is he an assassin or a Templar. But I just wanted to give that before we jump right in. So Mao, first thing he does is he starts these land reform campaigns, which basically orders a large number of landlords and rich peasants to be beaten to death at mass meetings as land was taken from them and given to poor peasants to reduce economic inequality. So, like, he says we're going to take it back, and then he does.
Violently.
He also led campaigns targeted at the bourgeoisie bureaucrats to prevent basically counterterrorism or counter-revolution. He basically targeted these people in power who he knew were not his supporters to prevent them from initiating a counter-revolution to his revolution. According to the United States State Department. By 1976, 1 million people were killed in land reform and 800,000 in counter-revolutionary efforts.
Okay. So I actually looked this up because I was curious if this would have been like classified as a genocide. And the consensus from like the official bodies is that no, this is not a genocide, which I find interesting. But basically the argument is like it's not necessarily against a specific people group, like a culture or a religion. But there are alternate definitions of genocide that argue that, you know, just anything that kind of like unites a group outside of culture, religion can also be a motivating factor for a genocide. And so in this, it would be financial status,
right?
Like property ownership. I'm not really sure where I land on it, but I do think it's interesting that there's kind of such a discussion and debate over whether or not that's classified as a genocide.
And there's always, like, in a lot of these genocides in general, there's always kind of this economic undertone. Like, I'm thinking there was obviously an economic undertone to the Holocaust and the 1930s, 40s Germany. Like, oh, the Jews are responsible for the Great Depression, like that kind of stuff. But also the Rwandan genocide, there was also another kind of thing. Like, I can't remember the names of the groups of people.
It's the Hutus and the Tutsis.
The Tutsis, like, but they're like, oh, the Tutsis have all the power.
Yeah.
They have all of the money. They have all of this. Your problems are because of this group of people. And I feel like with this, it is different because it is a point of, like, kind of radicalizing an oppressed group. Like, because he radicalizes the poor to move out and be a part of this. And then
I hear what you're saying, but I think the difference here is, like, in Germany in World War II, it's you're economically depressed because of the Jews. And then in Rwanda, it's you're economically depressed because of whichever one it was. Or in the United States, it was we're in this war because of the Japanese in World War II. But in this situation with Mao, it's you're economically depressed because this group of people has more money than you. There's not a racial factor. There's not a religious factor there.
Right.
It's all economy. So there's not an economic undertone. It's 100% about the economics.
Right. And I think I've heard this debate on, like, Stalin's reforms too. Like, is his stuff considered a genocide as well? Because again, it's all economic. It's all in the sense of class. And, like, if we want to put class into these categories, that we can.
I think it's a good question to ask. Regardless, the violence is not okay. Like, we should just say that. But I do think it's an interesting topic of discussion to bring up.
Right. So the truth is in his reforms, we don't actually know how many people have died because our reports are conflicting. What's reported by the U.S. State Department and the Chinese Communist Party are completely different numbers. And so Mao himself claimed that a total of 700,000 people were killed in the attacks on counter-revolutionaries during the years of 1950 to 1952. But there was a policy that he enacted to select at least one landlord, usually several, in virtually every village for public execution. The number of deaths ranged between 2 million and 5 million. In addition, at least 1.5 million people, perhaps as many as 4 to 6 million, were sent to reform through labor camps where many perished. See, this is where I think the debate changes, because now we have, like,
concentration
camps.
Yeah, I hear you. I also think another hallmark characteristic of a genocide is lying about the number of people that have been killed.
Yes. I tend to, at least in his actual like land reform and counter-revolutionary tactics, I tend to trust the U.S. State Department because they're forming the CIA right now. Like they are really into understanding and having an ear on all the world and figuring out all this stuff going on.
But their number is lower than these estimates.
Yes, this estimate comes from the estimates in the later half, like the 2 to 5 million and 4 to 6 million, are modern historians trying to piece together different sources.
Okay. So basically, the State Department is saying that by 1976, 1 million people had been killed. Oh, I see. So by 1976, almost 2 million people were killed in this, where Mao himself is saying only 700,000 total.
Yes.
Okay, I see.
So Mao also played a personal role in organizing mass repressions and established a system of execution quotas, which were often exceeded. He defended these killings as necessary for securing of power. The government is credited with eradicating both the consumption and production of opium during the 1950s. 10 million addicts were forced into compulsory treatment, dealers were executed, and opium-producing regions were planted with new crops. So, yeah, he's killing a bunch of people, but he also fought the war on drugs before it was cool to fight the war on drugs.
I mean, I don't know enough about the history to really talk about this with education, but I'm going to do it anyway. There's part of opium and the opium production, though, that like is almost cultural. Like China is where it comes from. Like we're not talking about like opiate pills in 2025 here, you know, like I just feel like there's a difference here. And so for me, I feel like this quote unquote Mao's war on drugs, as you've named it, is not necessary. It is more like fighting that kind of traditional culture almost.
And this was really interesting. One of a modern, he is a Chinese American historian. And one thing that he talked about was in this, he said Mao was determined to make the Chinese culture the culture of the Chinese Communist Party. So like Buddhism and obviously Christianity, these religious undertakings, the Chinese history of imperialism and all of that, like they're great empires. He wanted to replace all of that
with his history,
with his history and his Chinese Communist Party. That would be the culture, and culture would not have significant. The Communist Party would define values. Culture was for history, but values came from the Communist Party.
I mean, another hallmark of genocidal regimes is eradicating history and redefining their values.
I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, Hitler was known for collecting, Jewish art and other art and burning it and destroying it.
And books.
Yep.
But I think now will be a good time to go to our mid-break.
Yeah, let's do it.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso Virtual Coffee Machines. Ready to enjoy the bold flavors of barista-quality Nespresso iced coffee at home? Simply fill a glass with ice and press the brew button on your virtual pop machine to enjoy rich double espressos roasted to stand up even when chilled. Refreshingly bold iced coffee. Refreshingly easy to make at home. Visit Nespresso.com to shop now.
The summer sun hums, and all you crave is something cold and crisp. So you pour it. An icy cocktail made with Tequila Don Julio. Crafted with 100% Blue Weber agave, born under the Mexican sun, and made to be shared when the day runs long and the light gets golden. Shop now at donjulio.com. Please drink responsibly. Don Julio Tequila, 40% alcohol by volume, imported by Diageo Americas, New York, New York.
Are you ready to dairy-free your mind? This summer, melt away your dairy-free expectations with so delicious dairy-free frozen desserts. Enjoy mind-blowing flavors like salted caramel cluster, chocolate cookies and cream, cookie dough, and more. For over 35 years, So Delicious has been cranking up the flavor with show-stopping products that are 100% dairy-free, certified vegan by Vegan Action, and are so unbelievably creamy, your taste buds will do a double take. Dairy Free Your Mind. Visit SoDeliciousDairyFree.com.
Ma cos'è? Shoot! Shoot the flying demon!
Quite a carriage you got there. Where did you buy it, if you don't mind me asking?
Ask all you want, Freddy. You'll never get an answer.
Damn it all. Was it my eyebrows?
Yes, and your face, voice, and body.
What have you done? We used them. They were not ready for firing. You could have gotten us all killed. Let me see. His breath is more fatal than our cannons. Only when you two fools are shooting them. There, try it.
All right, this is the middle of the show where we talk about all the things that have to do with the Lorecast and not the lore of Assassin's Creed. So the first thing that I do every time is thank all of our awesome patrons. Thank you all so much for supporting us. We couldn't keep doing the podcast without you. And if you're not aware, we do send out merch quarterly ish 4 times a year. And so if that's something you're interested in, definitely sign up. You can get a t-shirt, some stickers, all kinds of awesome goodies. We've sent out 2 for the year so far. We just sent out our second round, our second quarters. So make sure you come, if you're interested, that you sign up for the Patreon and get the last 2 shipments for this year. And the next thing that I have to tell you about is ratings and reviews. Now, if you can't support us financially, the next best way to support the podcast is to tell your friends about us. You know somebody that loves to listen to Assassin's Creed, then tell them about it, share it on your social medias, whatever. But you can also leave us a rating or a review, and we will read it out on a future episode of the show. And so today I have a comment from Spotify. And this is from Michael B., who commented on our Pieces of Eden, Swords of Eden episode and said, "Hey all, I believe you two are the best out there. Love you both. 1,000 stars." Thank you so much for that awesome comment. And then the last thing I'm going to shout out is our Discord server. You can come join the Cups Podcasting and More Discord server. We always say it's the best place on the internet. It's a lot of fun, so definitely come over there and hang out with us. And with that, Austin, I think we're ready to get back into it.
All right, well, let's do it.
Eczema isn't always obvious, but it's real. And so is the relief from Ebglyss. After an initial dosing phase, about 4 in 10 people taking Ebglyss achieved itch relief and clear or almost clear skin at 16 weeks. And most of those people maintain skin that's still more clear at 1 year with monthly dosing.
Ebglyss, lebrikizumab, LBKZ, a 250 milligram per 2 milliliter injection, is a prescription medicine used to treat adults and children 12 years of age and older who weigh at least 88 pounds or 40 kilograms with moderate to severe eczema, also called atopic dermatitis, that is not well controlled with prescription therapies used on the skin or topicals, or who cannot use topical therapies. Ebglyss can be used with or without topical corticosteroids. Don't use if you're allergic to Ebglyss. Allergic reactions can occur that can be severe. Eye problems can occur. Tell your doctor if you have new or worsening eye problems. You should not receive a live vaccine when treated with Ebglyss. Before starting Ebglyss, tell your doctor if you have a parasitic infection.
Searching for real relief? Ask your doctor about Ebglyss and visit ebglyss.lilly.com or call 1-800-LILY-RX or 1-800-545-5979.
Introducing the new Volvo XC90 with 7-seat versatility, Google built-in, and advanced safety features for all your precious cargo. The new Volvo XC90, designed for life. Visit volvocars.com/US to learn more.
This summer, try the new Strato Frappuccino blended beverage at Starbucks. It's the classic blended iced coffee you know and love, now topped with a creamy layer of handcrafted brown sugar cold foam. Available for a limited time. Your Strato Frappuccino is ready at Starbucks.
Malaka. But that madman, the self-proclaimed Bishop of the Ruins, is our biggest critic. He calls our playing the devil's bagpipes.
I will sleep with anyone as long as they agree to be executed in the morning.
Like Xantivis.
He was well satisfied with his bargain. Who is this toothsome fellow?
My queen, this is,
Well?
It is a generous offer, but I've already pledged my life to this woman.
Aya, you have chosen well.
All right, so we just got a couple more history overview things to do, and then we can get into the Assassin's Creed. So starting in 1951, Mao initiated movements to rid urban areas of corruption. So in his early kind of leadership and all of that, he is, as Shelby said, focused mainly on rural agrarian cultures, basically seizing land from rich farmers and giving it to poor farmers. That is what he spends most of the time doing. Well, he now has set his attention on the urban environments. So the three anti and 5 anti-campaigns are what they're called. The 3 anti-campaign focused on purging government, industrial, and party officials. But the 5 anti-campaign is much broader. It basically targets capitalism and capitalistic elements in general. So like the idea of, I can't even think of thinking of a capitalistic element that he would purge. Like even just like unfettered access to the internet, even though that is not really what we're dealing with right now. Like that would be a capitalistic ideal that Mao would probably want to purge and not have that in there. Restricting access to education, restricting access to knowledge and information would be something that they might consider a capitalistic ideal.
And probably I would say also like any kind of ideals, values, TV. I know we're a little bit earlier than that, but like entertainment that comes out of capitalistic countries like America, restricting those things too.
Right. So in these efforts, workers denounced their bosses, spouses turned on spouses, children informed on their parents. The victims who were caught with capitalistic tendencies were often humiliated at struggle sessions where a targeted person would be verbally and physically abused until they confessed to the crimes that they were accused of.
Which like it should be noted here that like torture doesn't necessarily produce accurate information as much as it produces a confession.
Yes. Because if you're eventually, once you start hurting me, I'm going to tell you whatever you want to hear to get you to stop hurting me.
Exactly.
That's just human, our own survival instincts take over. So for minor offenders, Mao insisted they be criticized and reformed and sent to labor camps while, quote, the worst among them should be shot. These campaigns took 700,000 additional lives. Most of them were via suicide. Mao would continue these campaigns, resulting in mass deaths almost every time. His actions, especially his support of North Korea in the Korean War, led to a trade embargo from the United States that remained into effect by Eisenhower and remained into effect until the Nixon presidency. So that's about 20, 30 years. There is a lot that I skipped over and didn't include, and there's a lot. Unfortunately, this tends to be the case. There's not a lot known about him as a person. Like, you get his persona, but like that's the case. Like, we don't know a lot about Hitler as a person. We know him as a political figure. Like, we don't have his diaries, his journals, because most dictators don't want that stuff around because they perceive any insight into their person as a weakness.
Yeah, because they don't want their subjects to know the real them.
Mm-hmm.
Because anything that they know, anything that the people know personally about you can be weaponized and used against you or perceived as a weakness, like you've said.
So we really don't know if he was a person who truly believed he was doing the right thing and felt like all these people were massive threats to the well-being of China, or he was just power hungry and willing to take out anyone who was a threat to that power.
Mm-hmm.
Odds are that we're probably, because people can be multiple things, we're probably somewhere of a little bit of both, but we just don't know. So anything about Chairman Mao, the historical person?
I mean, like you've said, there's a lot we don't know, and I do just want to also reiterate, like, if we were going to go through his whole entire history, his whole regime, we would be here for probably months. Like, we couldn't do that in one episode. We couldn't do that in like 3 episodes. It would just be a lot of content. And so we have skipped over a lot of stuff. So don't come in the comments and be like, you guys didn't talk about da-da-da. Correct. Because we're limiting this to the politics, and we're limiting this to the things that we think, or that Austin thinks rather, are going to be primarily important in the discussion of whether they were an assassin or a Templar. We're not talking about everything. We're just trying to talk about some of the main points.
Yes, very much so. And I think that's a good segue into our Assassin's Creed involvement. Chairman Mao appears in a glyph from Subject 16, basically showing his influence and presence. It doesn't really link a piece of Eden to him or anything like that. And other than that, we have no general mention other than he was what we know from actual history. Like, he's not in a game. There's not anything to say, oh, he was a Templar. Oh, he was an assassin. Anything like that. So, but before we get into our assassin versus Templar discussion, which my answer might surprise you, I want to just remind us of a couple things lore-wise. Capitalism, historically, has been a tool of the Templar Order and Abstergo. They have used it to further their goals historically. Capitalism has always been a tool that the Templar Order feels that they can use to gain control and put themselves in power. I just think that is important to note.
If you're listening, you may know where Austin's going with this. He's going to have a hot take here.
Second, Karl Marx, the founder of communism and the Communist Manifesto, is an assassin friend. I think that is worth noting that and I want to know that what Mao does, what Stalin does, what Lenin does is not what Karl Marx was talking about. Karl Marx proposed a social theory of a natural changing course of society. He did not advocate for violent and prolific revolution.
Right. The political leaders take his theory and apply it into the political realm and make it something that it really was never intended to be.
Correct. And again, as we've talked about in our Karl Marx episode, he is observing what he believes to be a natural phenomenon, not something that is forced or man-made. Historically, in Assassin's Creed lore, the Chinese emperor, the Chinese imperial efforts have been Templar allies. So with all of that, just a reminding, I think Chairman Mao is an assassin. I think that his ideologies would put him into an assassin viewpoint. I think he has a sense of altruism and charity in his early thing of like trying to help out the people. I think he is an assassin who has gone too far. I think and this is an important thing, the assassins are one death, one public execution serves the purpose that you need to send the message. Taking out these one people, small deaths. The assassins do not, and ever since Bayek founded them, have not advocated for mass execution. That would be a huge no-go for the assassin order. So I think that Mao starts as an assassin or is supported by them, but then goes way too far, and he is an assassin gone off the rails.
I definitely hear what you're saying, and I was gonna argue that if you didn't, even though I do feel like of all the assassins we've seen, he does fit more into the line of Aya than of Bayek.
Yes, very much so.
That's kind of how I would phrase it. And even going back so far into the origins of the Assassin Order, there is this tension between, is violence really the answer? And Bayek argues that no, we can't just be violent. And, Altair has to learn that lesson too. And so this has always been a tension within the Assassin's Order. And so I feel like Mao and his actions fit into that. I do. But I also feel like if it was just the violence, I could hear where you're coming from a bit more. But with the authoritarianism and the suppression of information, suppression of culture, suppression of history. I feel like that's something that the assassins, like, they're not going to agree with, which is where, you're saying that he goes too far. But I also just feel like these dictators, they often promote this cult of personality. Like, pretty much every dictator ever has had a cult of personality surrounding them and people supporting them because of their personality. And so I'm sure that Mao is similar. And I do really feel like that is something that the Templars would try to use. I think it makes sense for Mao, when he's first starting out, coming from this peasant background, this poor background, to kind of find himself allying with the assassins. But as he gains more power, I can see him wanting to ally or being approached by the Templars to help him continue to stay in power. Because at the end of the day, I think this is a deeply violent person who primarily cares about making sure his power is shored up and that he still has a hold on his power.
I definitely agree with what you're saying there. And I want to offer just one little counter. Because we basically know by this time that the Templars have pretty strong control of the U.S. government and the CIA and the FBI at this point. Mm-hmm. I can't help but wonder if they allow Mao and don't use him so that they can then turn and use the guise of communism. It would not surprise me if we learned that the Red Scare was actually a Templar plot meant to root out assassins.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And I can also see, us using, basically, like, what if he was a Templar who went too far, almost what you're saying with the assassins, and gained so much power, they set him up to be this dictator and be this leader, but he gained so much power that they couldn't control him. And so they set him up, the United States Templars and even European Templars set him up to be the fall guy that the rest of the world boycotted so that they didn't have to deal with him anymore.
It is possible. It is also possible that he is manipulated and controlled by the Templars, because this is a minor spoiler for Assassin's Creed Shadows, but that's kind of what is going on in Japan.
Nobunaga.
With not even just Nobunaga, but the whole organization, the Shinbaku and everything. Like, they're not Templars.
Right.
But the Templars are in the game.
I do feel like there are some similarities between Nobunaga and Mao here that we could talk about, but I don't want to get too far into the Shadows spoilers or discussion.
I think that the difference is that Mao goes too far and he is just willing to execute anyone who stands against him, whereas Nobunaga is very strategic about his massacres. And I know that sounds terrible, but every single move that he makes against a people group serves a political purpose for him.
Yeah, he's more calculated. I just see the similarities between them, like being willing to sacrifice the people in hopes that they can unite their country.
Yes. And I think that with Mao, like, I don't think Mao is one of these dictators who starts off in this super evil state. I think that he grew up poor and watched his family struggle under China as it was, with imperialism and capitalism, and he sought to correct that. And he viewed capitalism as the source of all of that, and he was going to stop at nothing to eradicate it. And he went too far.
I definitely hear you. And I can honestly see it going both ways. I could see him allying or being an assassin, going too far, and then associating with the Templars, going too far, and then trying to get into the assassin's good graces, or being neither and being used by both of them and using both of them. I honestly can see it going all different kinds of ways here. This is one I don't feel like there's a clear-cut answer.
I agree with you. But it's been interesting nonetheless. And I was surprised after my research and being like, you know what? This is what I think.
Well, and I do think that we've said this before on the show, but I do think that there is a tendency of just people who like this game series to go into it and say, oh, bad guys equal Templars and good guys equal assassins. But we know from the history that that's not really true. We know from, there's some bad guys that, yeah, they are assassins or they are Templars. But we also know that there are bad people that are assassins too, and vice versa. I mean, look at the Civil War in America.
Yeah.
Is the perfect example. The assassins are not, they're not abolitionists necessarily.
Right. And let's talk about Borscht Posh.
Right.
Like, he's an assassin. And I think it is a thing to be like, FDR is canonically a Templar. Like,
right.
All the major leaders of World War II from the Allied side are Templars because the Templars are orchestrating the whole war.
Right.
Because they want to set it up for them to take control. And that's the kind of thing I like about Assassin's Creed is that, no, what you perceive as the conflict is not the conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's all staged. And I think that's what makes it interesting and just really good, and keeps us in check from basically allowing our Western-centric biases to overwrite and cast certain other non-Western cultures in a negative light.
Yeah, I agree with you. Well, I think that we're ready to wrap this one up.
Yeah, I think so too.
All right. Well, thank you for doing the research. I know this one, the ones where we're like not in America, where we're not in Europe, I know you have to do a lot more research because like we're just not as familiar with that. So thank you for doing the research and for bringing this one. I think this was a good topic, and I think maybe we'll be getting into some more artsy types in the future. So stay tuned for that. But thank you all for listening to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. You can find us on Twitter at AC Lorecast.
If you have any lore questions or topics to unpack, join our Cups Podcasting and More Discord server. It's the best place on the internet. You can also support us financially through our Patreon. Find us on patreon.com/Assassin's Creed Lorecast. The Assassin's Creed Lorecast is part of the Robots Radio Network. For more information about the Robots Radio Network, join the Discord server via the link in our episode's description.
If you enjoyed the show or learned something new today, please subscribe, leave us a review, and join the Patreon. And if you enjoyed our intro and outro music, make sure you give a big thank you to Pipeman Studios. Thank you, Pipeman. Thanks again for listening to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. And always remember, Assassins, stay in the shadows to serve the light.
This episode is brought to you by FX's Alien Earth, the official podcast. Each week, host Adam Rogers is joined by guests, including the show's creator, cast, and crew, in this exclusive companion podcast. They will explore story elements, deep dive into character motivations, and offer an episode-by-episode behind-the-scenes breakdown of each terrifying chapter in this new series. Search FX's Alien Earth wherever you listen to podcasts.
Want to live better? We've got a lot of work to do. Join Chris Hemsworth in National Geographic's new Disney Plus original series, Limitless. Live Better Now. I'm diving headfirst into cutting-edge science to uncover 3 powerful secrets to living better right now. The growth that occurs through any challenging experience is really what we see.
Chris Hemsworth stars in Limitless, Live Better Now. Now streaming on Disney Plus and Hulu.
It's showtime.